Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes of wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
I don't even know if I can podcast today. I have such a dilemma I'm working on. I just don't know what to do.
Well, let's see if I can help.
Okay. Should I drink Diet Mountain Dew or Mountain Dew no sugar? I haven't been this stymied since the great catsup ketchup debate of 2020.
Well, here's the question. What is the sweetener in each?
Well, I could run upstairs and grab a can of each, but
you don't give that much of a damn?
No, because I'll drink it as long as it's got 0 carbs.
There you go.
That's the bottom line.
See, me, I stick to my Diet Faygo.
I've been slowly drinking the. I found a box of diet sodas we got last time we went geeking to the Blue Soda Shop. I'm like, oh, that's where you were. You were underneath the comics.
They were hiding.
They were like, don't drink us. Too late. And some of them are downright tasteless because, there's no sugar in them. Some of them are good. I like the grape. The cherry was, and root beer is always good, regardless if it's sugar or sugar-free.
Yes. Although back in the 80s, I remember they had the first try at A&W sugar-free root beer.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the nastiest things I've ever put in my mouth.
Oh, I must have caught on later because I really didn't do sugar-free until after I became a diabetic. And that was one of the sodas like Diet Dr. Pepper where it was like, you know what, this tastes almost like the original, so I can deal with it. Other than, the immense amount of caffeine in Diet Dr. Pepper. But then I kind of dropped both of them because they have caramel coloring, and that is not really good for people with arthritis.
Oh.
Which is why I stick with Diet Doc. And again, that may be a Biff book science thing where some guy just said, caramel coloring? No, sir. I don't like it.
Well, it could also be like the MSG thing where everybody was like, oh, MSG is causing all these problems. And it wasn't, because there's MSG naturally occurring in all kinds of food. But there were other factors involved, but people blamed the MSG because, it's in Chinese food. For me, when it comes to stuff like that, I remember there is a packaged curry potato lentil food. And I remember I picked it up because, I want to start getting into Indian food, and I like lentils, and, potatoes are awesome. And I had some of it, and it gave me a migraine. And it's okay. You wait a couple months, and then you try again. Had another migraine afterwards, so that means food allergy. And I looked to see what the spices are and everything, and the problem was when it got to the curry, it just said curry spices. Now, curry spices could be up to 20 different spices. So it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm just not going to be buying those anymore if they're not going to tell me what's making my brain want to explode. So I just make my own lentils and potatoes. But we're not here to talk about headaches and food allergies and diet soda.
Or the fact that at the Maplewood Community Center, they got a God, Comics, and Gaming Convention on Saturday, July 30th.
God?
Which is the first Christian comic book convention in Minnesota. So I'm trying to see.
So it's going to have all of those Al Hartley Archie books, like Archie Sunshine and The Sword and the Cross, and Big Ethel Loves Archie, and that's what they're going to be selling, right? Oh, and they'll have the Pope John Paul II comic that's drawn by.
I'm hoping to pick up Pope John Paul first, because that's the only one I'm missing in my collection.
Oh.
All I know is it's Saturday, July 30th, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And since it's so bloody close to me, I will probably go to it if I remember. No refunds.
Don't think they'll have a lot of copies of Ghost Rider.
Well, maybe.
Son of Satan.
Jesus was in it.
Son of Satan.
What else is going on? Meta Conventions, Friday, September 2nd, September 4th at the Hyatt Sea Region Minneapolis. Check out, let's see what else is going on here. And there is apparently a Twin Cities Con, November 11th at the Minneapolis Convention Center. That wasn't even what I was looking for. I saw that the Minnesota Comic Exchange was having one, and I always want to mention it because they were so kind to actually put a link to our show.
They like us. They really like us.
Well, I know Chris says hi to me if he recognizes me under my mask. And I should apologize because I'm getting over the summer cold from hell. So if I do cough, and I probably will try to save it for when Cory's talking, but I do apologize in advance. I will be hitting the mute if I hit it quick enough. So you might hear I'm not losing it any more than I normally have.
Well, it looks like they start at 9 a.m. on Friday and Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
So you could go before work. And you'll be in uniform, so, maybe you get a little discount or something.
Well, that's
something.
Let's see, when does this podcast drop? Oh, we'll have plenty of time because by the time this drops, the Twin Cities Comic Conventions guys, TC Comics, will be having another one of their most wanted comics warehouse sale events where they just fill the place with dollar comics, and then they have sets and bundles, lots of toys and action figures. I'm looking at some of the toys, and I'm going, oh man, do those look great. And I usually have fun going to these things because I'm not looking to fill out runs and things because I haven't got anywhere near to figure out what I have. But I love going through the independent stuff because I usually find just really weird esoteric independents that are going for silly money because no one can find them anywhere. So I know last time I went, I spent the better part of a Sunday digging through lots of their dollar stuff, and mostly, maybe I'll just go quick and check out. Sometimes they'll have the higher buck books for more of a discount, but the actual days on that, if I can, let's see, they're talking June 24th, 25th, which is Friday, Saturday, 9 a.m. to 4. June 26th, 10 a.m. to 3, cash and credit cards accepted. 6900 Oxford Street in St. Louis Park. So if you're prone to go, I would definitely recommend it because I have boxes from some of their sales I haven't even gotten to. Just runs of stuff I've been meaning to read. Things that I will probably sell eventually, but I really want to read it first. You know what I'm saying? Especially since I only paid $1 for it. So,
well, we've got all sorts of news, some good, some bad, some kind of sad.
Kind of a weird one. Should we start with sad?
Yeah, we'll start with the sad news. Artist Tim Sale, who is best known for his, at Marvel, the Colors book, like Hulk Gray, Spider-Man Blue, Captain America, Red, White, and Blue, Daredevil Yellow. Over at DC, he worked with Jeff Loeb on The Long Halloween and a number of other books. And one of my favorites, Superman for All Seasons, passed away. He went into the hospital a couple of days ago and passed away today as we're recording this. Outpouring of grief on Facebook and Twitter. I never met him, but so many people talked about how he was really kind to other creators, very soft-spoken, very humble, because he's one of those artists that other artists point to as saying he's the top guy in the business, and reminds me a lot of Darwin Cook in that he's the artist that other artists look to and say, I wish I could draw as well as him. I just knew him by his art. He actually, first thing I ever saw of his was he worked on Grendel back in the 80s. And Matt Wagner had a really nice piece about how they had become brothers when they worked together almost, and were the closest of friends. Passed away today. No one is saying what of, but he went into the hospital a couple of days ago.
All right. I did find the Minnesota Comic Exchange Comic Show. It's Saturday, September 17th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Valley Creek Mall over in Woodbury. So, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that as we get closer. I plan to go to it one way or another. I will mention, though, some interesting news from one of the shops that we go to. Locally, the Comic Book College, and I'm just going to read the press release as it is. Hello, everyone. We've got some bad news and some good news to share. The bad news, a short while ago, we were informed that we needed to move out of our current store as a new tenant would be taking over the entire building. Little sidebar, Joe sidebar. They're actually part of what you can imagine as like, what was that, like a dollar store that used to be there?
That was a dollar store that was there.
So they were kind of chopped off from that, so they're part of the entire building. So it gives you an idea of what they're looking at. Back to the college boys. It's been a frantic search over the past month to find a new space, but as we have finally secured a new place to relocate our store, the address of our new location will be 1430 County Road C West in Roseville. Our plans are to be open at our current location on Nicollet through next Wednesday, June 22nd, which will have passed by the time this drops, but they'll be open the following week in Roseville starting Wednesday, June 29th. So, road trip. We will be keeping our current business hours at the new location. The good news is just under 12 miles from our current location, has much more available off-street parking and even more space inside the building than our current store. More rooms for comics. Okay, little Joe comment. Good. I hope you guys can display your discount comics a little better because they're a little confusing. I mean, I hit the $3 orange stickers constantly, but then you've got yellow stickers and blue stickers, and they're in drawers underneath and whatever. I just lay them out flat. I'm an old guy. I can't be getting on my knees, even if it is for a good discount. All right, let's see what else do they have to say. We want to thank all of our current subscribers and customers. We hope that everyone will be able to make the transition with us to our new location, although we realize it may not be feasible or possible for some. For those of you who currently have a subscription pull and hold account with us, please let us know if you're going to be able to continue with the new location so we don't continue to special order comics for you. Look, they are happy to see everybody at the new location. So that's kind of cool. A couple thoughts are it's always stressful to move to a location, and this one, of course, has the mental breakdown of having to go across the river into an entirely different store. We've talked about it in the past, people going to St. Paul for Comic-Con. Oh, I'd never do that. Don't know why. Comic-Con's Comic-Con, doesn't matter where the hell you put it. But to go that far, actually across a river, across two freeways, gotta be a plus for Hot Comics directly south of them. Kind of curious how that's gonna be for the source because they'll be directly north of them. So again, very different clientele. Comic Book College is probably 99.9998% comic books. They have a smattering of toys. Every so often they've got prints, things like that. Well, let me rephrase that. The source, obviously, key gaming store. They do wonders with their comics. College probably has more back issues. They probably tie in terms of new issues. So again, kind of interesting for me. Oh hell, I'm happy as hell because now I got two major comic stores within a 10-minute drive of me. So if I want to go, I go to the source constantly. Now I can go to the college constantly. So anytime I'm missing something, I can't wait. It should be very cool for me, and I wish the best. I wish the best for all the comic shops in town. So that's kind of the bad news, good news, which is I don't know. What's your take on this, Cory?
I think it's a weird place for them to move, quite honestly, because their big claim to fame was that they were the comic shop in Uptown. And this actually means that there is no comic shop in Minneapolis proper at this point.
Well, no, you've got Hot Comics that we visited, the one. That's Minneapolis.
Is that in Minneapolis?
It is in Minneapolis.
Okay. So
however,
they're the only one.
That's a long distance between to not have a comic shop.
Yeah.
I mean, from Hot Comics all the way up to the other Hot Comics. And then, of course, in New Hope, you still got Rockhopper Comics, and he's doing really well, so I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, it was weird. You got to wonder how fast they were told, hey, you got to be out, because I believe most leases, they give you 30 days. You got to give 90, but if you want to be out, you got to give them 60. I remember that from leaving Crazy Comics, because I had to give a 60-day notice versus with Hot Comics, I just sold it. So I just said, hey, it's converting over to this guy, which he just took over the lease, which was pretty cool. So I don't think, other than a guy like me who tends to hit all the stores, I don't really think this should have an effect on either shop, other than how many people are going to follow the college to Roseville. That's probably the number one thing. And I know, like when I sold my shop, there were a lot of people who went to the other Hot Comics because it was closer to them, versus some guys went to the Source, some guys went to Cedar Cliff, and most of them went to the other, they stuck with Brian. But there's always a few like, I'm just here because I like you. Well, thank you, guys. So I'll do my best. I'll try to support everybody.
Joe, do you have $2.4 million?
Hang on a second. I got my wallet right here. 2, 3. Shoot. I'm short by about 2.3.9 million. Sorry. All right, what's up?
The cover for Dark Knight #1 sold today.
Wow.
The original art.
Wait a minute. Oh, Dark Knight. Okay.
Yep. Dark Knight #1 by Frank Miller. The original art. $2.4 million.
I hope Frankie got a piece of that.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Now, another piece of art came out that isn't getting the press, but this is one that both you and I would be very much, oh man, if we had the money. If we had the money. Every page of George Perez's Beatles comic is up for sale at Heritage Auction as well.
Wait, what? Oh my gosh. I wish I was born rich instead of so good looking.
Yep. All 39 pages in one lot, currently receiving bids for $9,900, which it's going to go for a lot more than that.
And you know what's sad is I have the cash to do it, but I do like being married.
But just think how much you could flip each page for. I mean, just the splash page. Just that splash page would probably go for $50,000 to $60,000. But Heritage Auction has a lot of art by George Perez up for sale. Now that he's passed, it looks like that his family is selling off the original art, which is one of the reasons why when he announced that he was terminally ill, he did not ask for contributions for himself. He asked that people give money to the Hero Initiative, partly because he'd made a lot of money with commissions and selling original art, and the deal he had with the Teen Titans. Both he and Marv Wolfman were part of the profit sharing, and Teen Titans has made enormous amounts of money with all the different TV shows. But also his family had all of this original art, and he probably gave them instructions on how to sell it through Heritage Auctions, which we always remind people, let your family know how to dispose of your collectibles so that they can get the most out of it. Because when you pass, your family is not going to know what to do with that original art. They're not going to know what to do with those statues. They're not going to know what to do with those Marvel Masterworks. They're not going to know what to do with that Marvel Superheroes that has the first appearance of Squirrel Girl.
Nor will they probably know what it actually is worth.
Right.
because there are times when, like, my wife will move something and I will be mortified because, okay, honey, you just moved like a $200-300 comic, and she didn't know. But on the other hand, it's like, have me move it, please. So fortunately, I don't do that much anymore. I just tend to, if it's in the way, I just move it downstairs, and she knows pretty much to stay out of here.
And the last piece of news I want to bring up,
okay,
is not comic related. It's wrestling related.
Hey, can I do one more comic news, and
Sure.
then we'll get into that?
Sure.
Okay. I do want to congratulate Tim, I believe it's Odland, Odland. And I'm just going to read this right off his Facebook. He says, dreams come true if you keep working on them. Today, a box arrived with comp copies of the first issue of my new series, Beware the Eye of Odin. Finally, the dream has come to fruition. For me, this is a big deal for a few reasons I've dreamed of. He says, okay, so they're right. For me, this is a big deal for a few reasons. I've dreamed of being a pro comic artist since I was a kid. To have a book at Image has been a long time goal. 30 years ago, this new publisher exploded on the scene. I was 9, reading Savage Dragon, Spawn, Youngblood, Wildcats, and all the major Image books. I would imagine myself as a grown-up drawing comics for Image. Things haven't turned out the way I imagined it then, but throughout my life, I never let go of that dream. It might have taken me longer than I thought, but the most important thing is I never let go. Dreams don't just happen. You've got to work for all the things that fill your time. Life is busy. Some of us are more busy than others, but if you have a dream, work on it. Even if it's a little bit at a time, you'll eventually have enough work put into it. You'll be able to make something happen. For me, this has come full circle. It's the 30th anniversary of Image Comics this year. I can celebrate them with a big high five from a 9-year-old me. On June 22nd, again, yesterday as this podcast drops, my comic will be in comic shops across the United States. I'm so excited to share it with you. Beware the Eye of Odin. I don't remember if we talked about this in previews. Had I known it was a local guy, I most definitely would have. So again, we put out the word, but if you got something you want to promote, give Cory an email, give me an email. We love promoting creators. We don't care. We do a lot of Minnesota guys. Another one, of course, Cory's wonderful podcast you did with, brain fart, AEW Pro Wrestler.
Nyla Rose.
Oh, man, wonderful book. And how did that podcast go? Did you ever get any numbers or feedback from it?
It's doing well. It gets more than our regular podcast, but also it was available on PWInsiderElite.com. So
as it should be,
spreading the word to the wrestling fans about comics and our podcast, which is one of the reasons why I work over at PWInsiderElite.com to let people know about this here podcast. So if you came over from PWInsiderElite.com,
now you're going to know why.
I want to thank you.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
And should I get into the wrestling news now?
Yeah, I think I have no more comic news.
So for those of you who aren't big wrestling fans, even you might understand this. I explained it to Stephanie, who until like about 3 months ago did not know that Vince McMahon was the owner of WWE. She thought he was just the announcer. Met Sergeant Slaughter, they were talking, and he brought up Vince, and she was like, hold on, wait a minute. You mean the guy in the yellow blazer, the announcer guy? Why would you be talking to him about that? And he laughed and said, he's the owner. So, yesterday, the Wall Street Journal reported that WWE Board of Directors are investigating an alleged $3 million payment made by Vince McMahon in January of 2022 to a former WWE employee who he allegedly had a sexual relationship with. Wall Street Journal report states that January 2022 separation agreement bars the now former employee who was hired as a paralegal in 2019 from discussing the relationship with Mr. McMahon or disparaging him. The article also notes the board's investigation, which began in April, has unearthed other older non-disclosure agreements involving claims by former female WWE employees of misconduct by Mr. McMahon and one of his top executives, John Laurinaitis, the head of talent relations. The journal couldn't determine how many of these previous agreements had been created and were being scrutinized. The board's outside counsel was still collecting information about the other NDAs this week, but has determined that payments totaled in the millions of dollars, people said. A WWE spokesman told the Wall Street Journal that they are cooperating with the investigation and the relationship with Mr. McMahon and the former employee was consensual. Vince McMahon's lawyer stated that this was a consensual relationship. The former paralegal hasn't made any claims of harassment, and the WWE did not pay any monies to the former employee on her departure. The article states the board of directors learned of the allegations when they received an email from a friend of the former employee in March. The email claimed that the employee was hired with a $100,000 salary that doubled once she began a relationship with McMahon. The Wall Street Journal report notes the email to the board also alleges that Mr. McMahon gave her like a toy to Mr. Laurinaitis. The board is investigating the allegations in the email. People familiar with the inquiry said, "My friend is so scared she quit after Vince McMahon and her lawyer paid her millions of dollars to shut up." Now, there are two things about this I want to bring up. First off, there are a lot of people who are saying that, well, this is just like what Trump did. Nope. This is different in that this was an employee of WWE. The non-disclosure agreement was with WWE and Vince McMahon. Therefore, because of the salary raise and wanting to know where that $3 million came from, they have to investigate it. And the Security and Exchange Commission will also be investigating this because they are a publicly held company. Also, Jerry McDevitt, Vince McMahon's lawyer, freely admitted that there was a relationship and the payoff. So, now I'm going to go into tinfoil hat territory. About a year or so ago, Vince McMahon hired a Hollywood super agent, Nick Khan, to be the CEO of WWE. His job was to put together their next TV deals and to get them connected with entertainment circles in the same way that the NBA, the NHL, the Major League Baseball, all of those were embedded. And one of the first things he did was, you remember last year when, they fired 15% of the office staff. They let go a whole bunch of wrestlers. They let go more office staff, and they let go a bunch more wrestlers. He cut costs to the bone. Now, he has been able to get together new deals. They say he's the one was the primary focus behind the WWE network being sold to Comcast to be on Peacock. He has set up deals with Discovery and Vice TV for new TV series. They are negotiating their next TV deal with Comcast for USA and Fox for SmackDown. But here's where I get into the tinfoil hat territory. Shane McMahon came back, and I'd always heard that Shane McMahon was well liked in the locker room. He came back for Royal Rumble because they wanted him. They always want to bring back the past stars. So they bring Shane back, have him do a run from Royal Rumble to WrestleMania. But at Royal Rumble, we got all these stories about how, Oh, Shane was a jerk backstage. Shane wanted the Rumble to be all about him. Shane wants to have the main event at WrestleMania, etc., etc., etc. Shane was sent home. Now, Shane was not an employee, still not an employee. He did have a talent deal. No idea if that talent deal's gone or not. NXT, which was on Wednesday nights against All Elite Wrestling, and All Elite Wrestling got better ratings. They moved NXT over to Tuesdays. Now, NXT was, when it started, a way to get all the new talent some TV time, build it as a separate brand. But when All Elite started, they went, okay, we need to blunt this All Elite thing. So they put a deal together with USA to put NXT on USA, and it lost. And a lot of the people that have come up from NXT to WWE have been mishandled. They haven't become huge stars. So
I'm shocked, I tell you.
Triple H is removed from being the head of talent relations, removed from being the head of NXT, and all of the people who worked with him, other than Shawn Michaels, quietly fired over the last few months. Most of the wrestlers that he was pushing as stars on NXT quietly released when their contracts were up. Then a few weeks ago, Stephanie McMahon announces that she's stepping down from her responsibilities. She was a brand manager, some corporate stuff, to spend more time with her family. About a week later, somebody in WWE leaks that she was doing a bad job, and they phrased the leak in such a way that even if she comes back, she won't have any power.
Aha, a whisper campaign.
So all of the McMahon's gone since the first of the year.
Is Linda part of the organization?
Linda has not been a part of the WWE since Trump took office, because remember, she was head of Small Business Administration under Trump. Then she stepped down to run a Trump super PAC, and she lives in Florida. Her and Vince have not lived together for at least 7 years.
Okay, so she's out.
They're not divorced.
No.
Vince did say in an interview a few months ago when he was asked about Linda, well, my wife. So this, now, if the allegations are true and there's fiscal malfeasance, Vince would be forced to sell his stock. It's not that he would have a choice. The SEC would come in and go, you were using company funds to pay for personal stuff. You violated this. You did this. You need to sell off your stock. His stock would be sold at auction.
Now, the thing to remember about WWE, that the McMahons owned voting stock.
No.
Not anymore?
Vince owns voting stock.
Okay.
He owns 51%.
I thought
the years,
the other McMahons had owned it, which is why it's significant when, was it last year or 2 years ago, Stephanie dumped like a couple $1 million worth of stock.
Yeah.
Which was significant because I was always like, well, that's voting stock versus like what I could jump on the exchange and just get regular stock, which means I could whine and bitch and moan, but I ultimately had no real say in how the company is run.
Yeah, Vince had it structured so that he owned 51% of the voting stock.
So who owns the other 50?
That's the board of directors and mutual funds, and its executives are given that stock as bonuses, just like any other company. But no matter what, Vince had 51%, so whatever he said goes. But he would be forced to sell his stock at auction if the SEC says so, or if the board of directors has a vote of no confidence based on this, or and this is where it gets really into the weeds. If a corporation breaks a law, it's not like the corporation is going to go to jail. Basically, the corporation pays a fine. What they could do, however, is fire Vince McMahon for what he did, and he would have to personally pay the fine. Now, he'll never go to jail because billionaires just don't go to jail. But he could be in a lot of legal trouble because he was taking money from rich people. And that's the one thing you cannot do. All the people who ripped off everybody during the 2007-2008 stock market collapse, only one went to jail, and that's Bernie Madoff, because he ripped off rich people.
I'm looking here at the Wall Street Journal over who is on the board of directors of WWE. And what's interesting is the key people, if I can get the internet to stop flipping around. Okay, you got Vince, you got Nicky Khan, who's
the new CEO.
He's a new CEO. Okay. Well, has McMahon stepped down?
McMahon was never the CEO, he was the COO.
Okay. Wall Street Journal says he's the CEO. Nick Khan, President, Director, Chief Revenue Officer.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah,
then,
it's some weird corporate thing where Nick Khan is in charge, but Vince still has a title. But Vince doesn't do anything with the business.
Chief,
he stays in the creative and the TV stuff because that's all he wants to do.
Maybe Wall Street Journal's not caught up because they got Stephanie McMahon and Paul
Levesque, which is Triple H,
still on the board.
They may still have a name, but they are powerless at this point. You can be on a board of directors and have no voting rights.
Yeah, again. And then you got Steve Parman, Erica Nardini, Steve R. Conan, who were all WWE, a lot of WWE people. And then you get into the executives. But so far, I'm sorry, this Wall Street Journal, your interface sucks. I'm trying to just look.
Well, they want you to buy a subscription.
Well, it's not that. It's just I'm flipping up and down on who's on the board of directors, and it flips down into the all executive section. Okay, anyways, you got Matt T. Singh, Indian Broadcasting Foundation, Alan Welcher. Well, I'm not going to read these. 1, 2. You got 3 people who are not on part of the WWE, and everybody else, Connell Schnell, someone LaHound, they're independent directors, and you got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. So there's only 3 people that are not. Actually, I take that back. Everybody on the board is part of WWE. They might have their. Oh, well, no, I said that wrong. They're 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, no, it's interesting because they're listing all the different boards that these people are on without. I hit a snag here because now Wall Street Journal's. Oh, WWE investigative alert, which is pretty much what you just talked about. So it's interesting because you get rid of 3 people. I'm intrigued, but there's no way to really know.
And a lot more is going to come out. This is the first, but the story broke. Go over to pwinsider.com for the best reporting on the internal WWE stuff about this. But this has been picked up by the Wall Street Journal, who's the ones who broke the story, CNN, MSNBC, what is this, CNBC, which is the financial network, et cetera, et cetera. This is a big deal. And if Vince is removed, think about, he's been the top dog in wrestling since '85. Even during the Attitude Era when they were getting beat by WCW, if you talk to your average run-of-the-mill person and you ask them what wrestling is, they would say the WWF. If he left, would the TV product change? no idea. But I tell you what, there are a lot of people there who Vince likes a lot that no one else in the company does, who have positions of power in the television product. And I will also say, John Laurinaitis, if I were you, rent, don't buy, because you are on your way out the door. Yeah. There is always a scapegoat, and you're going to be it. And that wife you have on your reality show with the Bella twins, lawyer up, buddy, because she's going to be coming for that money.
I will say, as I'm reading through, apparently Stephanie and Paul are still on the board. They're not off the board. Whether they have any power or not is not relevant, but they have not been removed.
Right.
And they're allegedly part of the investigation. I remember I talked with Cory about this offline, and there were a couple of things that I thought were interesting about this. First of all, I'm curious in terms of what will happen to WWE, because as Cory said, Nick Khan is the Hollywood power broker who made WWE more powerful like the NHL and NBA. History has shown, however, that non-wrestling people do not know how to do wrestling. Just go look at the rise and fall of the WCW. Time Warner had all these non-wrestling people come in, and they just didn't know what they were doing. This is more for after Nick gets rid of WWE, which I am guessing they're leaning towards, mostly because we were talking about this off podcast way before, because WWE's been downsizing their corporate structure for a long time, not to mention the talent people that are being let go, and we're all like, what is going on here? So I'm really kind of interested to see, just once they're out of Vince's and Khan's clutches, what may become of WWE. Will the current owner be smart enough to find somebody who knows wrestling? Not Eric Bischoff, because all Eric Bischoff was obsessed with were ratings. Because that was always one of the big things us wrestling fans were interested in. When the heir apparent, Triple H, took over from Vince, and unfortunately a lot of us were morbidly like, well, when Vince dies or incapacitated, Triple H knows wrestling. I mean, he made NXT the powerhouse it was, and then somebody Pearl Harbored him, in my opinion, like you said earlier, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's let go. Same thing with Stephanie. She made the women's division watchable, but she obviously doesn't know what she's doing. She's out of here. And then the same thing with Shane. Really? All of a sudden, all three McMahons that are involved in the wrestling creative side of the product are unworkable, unwanted, unmanageable, and let go? Whatever. Got to get rid of the allies before you make the move to take over. I'm interested to see, because there's no way Vince is going to sell his stock unless the SEC.
He won't sell his stock.
I don't see
sell
him
his stock voluntarily.
Yeah, there's no way, because he's kind of shown, and this is why I don't really watch WWE much anymore. He's doing what he thinks is best, even though it's not that great, especially not compared to some of the other wrestling guys around. It's interesting they released it to the Wall Street Journal, because that got everybody's attention, because the memo apparently circulated to everybody, including Triple H and Stephanie, on March 30th. And here we are. When did this break? Was this Tuesday?
Yesterday. It was yesterday. So
okay, so it was Wednesday. Yeah, I think Mike Johnson was at a baseball game. You were watching AEW. And
no, it broke earlier. It broke around 4 in the afternoon.
Okay. Still, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously news now, but maybe they were trying to get it before the news cycle. I don't know. Let's see. What else? That's
usually when you drop a story like that, it's because you want it on the 5 o'clock. You want it on the 5 o'clock news.
And I'll talk.
And right after Wall Street closed, so it would affect the stock. However, the stock hasn't been affected by this.
Yeah, which is interesting, because I was kind of watching for that, because I've got a little extra cash in my Fidelity account. Time to pick up some stock somewhere. And say what you will about WWE, they're cash rich, which really drives shareholders nuts because when they see cash in a company, they think it comes back to them. You don't reinvest it, you don't give raises, you give me the money. And WWE's been very solid in terms of paying dividends, even their non-voting stock, which may be diluted now. It may not be an issue anymore. I haven't investigated, but they pretty much pay a solid dividend, which is the type of stocks that I look for. So, very interesting.
Rather than look at what happened with WCW, what I would look at as a possible change would be what happened with UFC.
Okay.
UFC was owned by Dana White. He sold it to a big sports company. They kept him to run it and have gotten into bed basically with Disney. You know how you don't hear a lot about UFC pay-per-views anymore? That's because they're part of the ESPN Plus. You want to watch UFC? You got to buy ESPN.
Which would make sense why Comcast or NBC, whomever, would want to buy WWE, because first of all their content is in Comcast.
Yep.
And they would probably just plug that into. Do they have a presence on Fox Sports, WWE?
They have a presence on Fox the network, and when they are preempted because of football or whatever, they are shifted over to Fox Sports 1. Okay. They did have a show on Fox Sports, but it was one of those recap shows and nobody cared.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting because everybody, the first thing out of your mouth is like, well, who else would bid for them? It's like, well, they already have a pretty close working dynamic with Comcast. So I don't know if anybody else. I don't see Disney going after them because I don't think ESPN views pro wrestling as a legitimate sport. They would interview people, but I just don't see it. Unless they have like an ESPN4, they would shove it on somewhere. I don't know.
I don't think they would do it just because they've got contracts with much bigger sports.
Yeah, it's not as big.
Where would, you put Raw on Monday night, well, that's going to get in the way of Monday Night Football. That's going to get in the way of Monday Night Baseball. It's going to get in the way of college basketball. It's one of the reasons why All Elite Wrestling got moved to TBS. TNT got hockey, and they have the NBA. So you've got 3 months out of the year, and then baseball in the fall where it's preempted because they're going to show hockey on a Wednesday night. They're going to show a basketball playoff on a Wednesday night. They're going to show a baseball playoff on a Wednesday night rather than the Wrasslin because they paid a hell of a lot of money for those.
Now, how is AEW doing on TBS?
They did not change much. They're still hovering at around 1 million viewers. They come in. They always are in the top 5 for the demo. And they get the number one. They get the number 1 spot unless it's playoff season or what. I think this week they did not get the number 1 spot because there's a new Real Housewives show that started and got a huge rating.
Ugh.
But for the most part, they're number 1, number 2, number 3, and everything we hear is that the new owners are super happy with them.
New owners of what?
New owners of Time Warner.
Okay.
Remember Discovery bought Time Warner.
Yeah.
If you watch AEW, boy, do they have tons and tons and tons of ads for Discovery shows. It's almost like, hey, these are new eyeballs. This is a male audience. We don't get a male audience. Boom.
This is why I asked that, because in previous pro wrestling on TNT, TBS, that was, again, another reason why WCW was given the boot, because TBS and TNT did not see the demographics for wrestling as a good fit for what they wanted to do. They didn't want Babylon 5 and its spinoff for the same reason, because they looked at it and said, we got all these guys that come in, they watch Babylon 5, and they all leave. They don't stick around to watch the show afterwards. So even though they were getting good ratings and getting eyeballs that they wouldn't normally get, they did a piss poor job of converting those new eyeballs to other people. So it makes me feel glad, at least Discovery now, they understand it's their job to get these new eyeballs that are here for AEW that they wouldn't have gotten any other way, to say, hey, check out some of this other stuff.
The other thing that helps AEW is what Discovery is. There was a lot of talk when Discovery came in that, wrestling is lowbrow. The new owners aren't going to like it. And I always said, have you watched what's on Discovery channels? TLC, Dr. Pimple Popper.
Yay!
Naked and Afraid. I've had 40 kids.
Duck Dynasty.
All the reality dating shows where, it's basically they're almost like old freak shows. It's, here's little people dating. Here's people with, this problem dating. Here's 2,000-pound sisters. They're not going to be looking their nose down at wrestling when you're the network that had Honey Boo Boo. Okay.
Okay, so that makes me feel good for the future AEW. It's their own. They're getting help from the parent corporation, which again was one of the reasons why WCW was so ejected, because they didn't know what they have. And again, maybe that answers my question too. And I think it's a done deal. It's just we got to watch it play out. When WWE is finally de-Vincified and sold off to somebody else, I don't know if Nick Khan knows wrestling from a hole in the ground. I think he probably does. I don't know if WWE is surviving on the fact that they do have all these other revenue streams coming in, merchandising overseas.
And he's creating new revenue streams.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's one of the big reasons they brought him in, because they'd sold off pretty much everything.
But will he have the smarts to realize, hey, I don't know how to script wrestling interestingly?
Oh, he has no part in the creative.
Yeah, but he's also got, again, he's kind of shifted out Triple H. I don't know. Maybe they'll talk to Paul Heyman and say, hey, you want to take a whack at this? Although at Paul's age, I don't know if he would.
Well, right now, the guy who's basically who puts all of Vince's stuff into works is Bruce Pritchard, who, if you're a fan, you will know him as Brother Love. And he's been in and out of that company for 30 years. And he knows exactly what Vince wants. But they've also got a ton of producers. And what a producer is the person who they go to him and say, we're going to have this match between these two people. It needs to go this long, and this person wins. Put the match together. And the producer sits down with the wrestlers and says, all right, your match is this long. You're going to do this, then you're going to do this, then you're going to do this, then you're going to do this. And they've got so many people involved that in a lot of ways, if Vince were gone, the machine would keep running for quite a while before
we need to get it
the
more
wheels would start to wobble.
interesting, because right now they've wobbled, I think, as far as they're going to. They need to do something more interesting to get me back in.
To get you. Now, Joe, I'm not saying this to be mean.
No, I'm not. I may not be the target audience for WWE anymore.
You're in your mid-50s.
No, I'm in my late 50s. Get it right.
They don't even measure you. It's 18 to 34 and 18 to 49. Yeah. You and I are in the everybody else.
Yeah, but they also lost my daughters, who were big pro wrestling fans.
Now, here's the thing. Yes, their overall numbers have gone down. They're still number one when there's no football. That's number one in viewers, except Fox News, and their viewers are so old that nobody cares. Not being mean, advertisers do not give a crap.
Maybe they're
if you
just
ever want to
going
see, watch Fox News. It's cash for gold and catheters.
I watch Fox News when I need to purge myself of something I ate bad, like a rotten taco. No,
So
what I'm
there
saying
is a reason why Fox and USA paid a lot of money for WWE. It gets them a huge rating. SmackDown gets 2 million viewers every Friday night for $2
So what you're saying is they're happy with what they got.
Yeah.
And they just don't want to lose any more.
Right.
Because everybody talks, they used to be upwards of like $4 million, or you used to have 4 million viewers, and then people just drifted away.
Yeah, but what it is, the other thing to remember is, since 2019, cable has lost 19 million subscribers.
How much has over-air watch lost, I wonder?
About the same. They're kind of grouped together at this point. So when you look at that, they will look and go, okay, we've lost this percentage. Has WWE lost a higher percentage or a lower percentage? And WWE has lost a lower percentage. So they're happy. It's like AEW. AEW, there are people who look at the ratings and go, oh, the ratings haven't gone up. They're a failure. Are you kidding? Keeping the same number of viewers as cable loses 19 million?
Or
they are jumping for joy.
To put it in the comic fan format, hey, if we sell 60,000 of a unit, we're giddy happy. Never mind in the 80s, we were selling millions. It's what they got now. And if they get that up to 65, that's a win.
Or, we've got, the Thor by Jason Aaron sold around 50,000 copies through his entire run. And then we're going to get 10 hardcovers out of that, and they'll sell 7,000 to 10,000 copies each. Then we'll get trade paperbacks out of that. They'll sell 15,000 to 20,000 copies each.
That's funny you say that, because I just finished reading Volume 5.
Then we'll get 2 omnibuses, and they'll sell 3,000 to 4,000 copies.
Don't forget the War of the Realms. That's pretty good for 7 years of work.
And we have content on Marvel Unlimited.
Yep. And
they monetize it over and over and over.
The new movie coming up.
Yep. Just Gore being in that movie is going to make more money than, let's say, nobody bought Jason Aaron's Thor, and they lost $10,000 on each issue. They will more than make that up with the Thor movie next month.
So what you're saying is if Disney could figure out how to take the WWE characters and turn them into their own franchise movie.
Here's the other thing.
I'm happy. I'm happy with John Cena's Peacemaker, I guess.
The other thing to remember, there was a Netflix movie featuring The Undertaker and The New Day. G4 just announced that they are going to have a deal with WWE for their wrestlers to be on to talk about video games. There are video game shows like Up, Up, Down, Down that have wrestlers. Up, Up, Down, Down had a thing where wrestlers were just playing Uno and talking on YouTube. That was getting hundreds and thousands of live viewers.
I gotta go Google what's Up, Up, and Down, Down.
But it's all these different revenue streams. And comics are the same way.
Yeah, everything's fragmented.
And we were going to do reviews after we talk news, but we've been talking for an hour already.
Yeah, well, and I can't even talk about that. I finished Jason Aaron's complete collection, 5 volumes, including the omnibus of War of the Realms. So I will put that in a pile for next week.
You know who does have time to talk to us, though, Joe?
Well, I'm not sure anymore.
That would be our sponsor, Nordvpn.
Oh, hello, Nord.
Our newest sponsor is Nordvpn. let's be honest, if you're out on the internet, you need a VPN to protect you. There's all sorts of things going on the internet where people can track you. You could accidentally download a keylogger, all sorts of things. Nordvpn gives the best security possible. It has a password manager which generates complex passwords, syncs across all your devices, stores your notes and credit card information. It also gives you 10 gigabytes of private cloud storage, secure files that backs up your data automatically. But the main thing it gives you is peace of mind. It gives you peace of mind when you're out on the internet, when you're streaming, when you're playing games, when you're listening to podcasts like this one. It gives you safety anywhere at any time. It protects your online activity. You get full access to all content. And if you use the link go.nordvpn.net sh3ku, it'll take you to where you can get a great deal for a 1-month plan, a 2-year plan, a 1-year plan. They are our newest sponsor. We're happy to have them. And if you would like to sponsor something here at any of the podcasts on the Solitaire Rose Network, you can. Just email me, solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. And me talking about all these other podcasts. The Solitaire Rose Podcast Network is filled with all kinds of audio goodness. First, there's Crazy Comics and Stories. It's been going since 2010. It drops every Monday, and it has me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard, and Joe Crazy Writer talking comics, shenanigans, and whatever we're freaking and geeking about. Every Monday morning. It's been going since 2010, and it's available at crazycomics.solitairerose.com. Also on that same feed is the Solitaire Rose Podcast, which is me, again, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard, doing interviews, talking about comics history, pretty much talking about whatever I want to talk about. We've also got Solo Joe, where Joe Crazy Writer does a solo podcast, and he hasn't done one in a while, so kick him in the shins to get him started. We also, on that same feed, have Solitaire Rose Series and Review, where we do DVD commentary of older comic book series. That's all at crazycomics.solitairerose.com. I also do a podcast with Wolfie B. Bad at badadvice.solitairerose.com, where we take listener questions and give them bad advice. There's also Novelcast, where I take the novels I've written and turn them into free audiobooks. That's at novels.solitairerose.com. There's also Fantastic Forecast, where myself and Adam Vermillion are going through the entire run of the Fantastic Four, 4 issues at a time. That's fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com. There are always more podcasts at the Solitaire Rose Podcast Network. Be there. Aloha. And you...
Woo!
Talking about what's going on the eBays.
Oh, there's lots of going on eBays. I'm just going to list some of the stuff I sold that you had your chance. Some of it, like the first thing I'm going to mention, Batman Judge Dredd Die Laughing, 1 to 2. I think I talked about it, that I read it in one of my Freaking and Geeking. Just a 2-issue series. I think the last of the Batman Judge Dredd crossovers, if I recall. Sold a Captain Britain softcover. Alan Davis, Jamie Delano from 1989. It was only in good shape. One book I did sell that I was kind of like, oh, I was going to read that. Fantico's Chronicles. This is the series annual where they just talk about everything but, like the other ones were like Daredevil, Avengers, Spider-Man, that type of stuff. Arsenic Lullabies Pulp Editions, 0, 1, and 2. Doug Paskevich's crazy stuff, always worth picking up. I know it as Yum, but how's it called? Yursei Yasura?
Yeah.
I gave up buying the new Viz stuff, so I put them on eBay. Sold volume 2. Let's see, Red Sonja number 2, the Seduction variant cover. A couple Star Trek Discovery Adventures in the 23rd Century, the retailer incentive covers. I picked it up, I read it, I sold it. Amazing Worlds of DC Comics number 10. This one was the 1976 DC Production Office photo cover which was really cool. A really odd book I picked up, Zippy Nation of Pinhead Catalog, a Last Gasp catalog, sometime in the 1980s, featuring all sorts of stuff from the Last Gasp catalog. Let's see, variant covers, Vampirella Dracula, Unholy number 3, the Virgin variant cover, T. Mighty Morphin from the Power Rangers, they had a Virgin unlockable variant cover that Gonzalez did. These are all books from the last year. I had 3 Wizard World convention programs from Chicago, 2003, 4, and 5. Sold them as a lot. G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, 176. It's coming to an end at IDW. Some of those later issues I don't think people were picking up, even though Larry Hama was still writing them. Still got some South Park stickers, Mr. Garrison's, Mr. Hat, and Cartman. I'm not fat, I'm big boned. The Art of Hell Witch versus Lady Death, Orgasm number 1. One of the extra add-ons you can get if you get their Kickstarter proclamation. They always load it up because those guys have it just down pat. Dawn 1/2, a Wizard Mail Away from 1996. This is the Hey Kids variant. Let's see, Grimm's Fairy Tales, Bad Girls number 2 from 2012. Had a Batman Court of the Owls Volume 1 softcover, sold exceedingly cheap. Because you know me, I like to be the cheapest guy on the eBay. Let's see, 32 series by Ditko, number 11, Act 6. Rob Schneider publishing all this stuff that Steve Ditko did. This one dated from 2011. Transformers Generation 2, the regular gatefold and the new rare newsstand variant. Cory, you might remember this one. Supergirl number 1, the Michael Turner sketch variant cover. Actually a second print, really cool. Cartoon Network starring Space Ghost. No, not that one, the Coast to Coast. This is number 12. Myth Adventures, Warp Graphics from 84-85, 1 through 5, including number 5 had the Winslow story. Let's see, Bagged Sex Criminals, number 24, the Elsa Charretier sealed polybag variant cover. Ooh. Let's see, I'm going to fast forward. Veronica 56 from 1996, Archie Comics. Speaking of War of the Realms, a variant cover, one from Adi Granov from 2012. There's the other one. Yusuri Yatsura, Volume 1. A Wonder Woman DC Archives Volume 7, still shrink wrapped. Why? Well, because I have one that's unshrink wrapped. I don't need 2, you know. Sold my run of the Marvels. I collected 1 through 9 because I'm going to pick it up as, well, I suppose the trades whenever they come out. Hedge Knight, black and white variant hardcover from George R. Martin. Or is it 2 R's? I don't care.
R.
Plastic Man, On the Lam, vinyl cover. I reviewed this ways back. It was fun. Kyle Baker's run from 2004. Following Cerebus number 5 from 2005, which had a long interview with Eisner, Gaiman, and Frank Miller. The Untold Legends of the Batman, the Batman serial mail away, where in 1980 you could mail away for it, and they're a little smaller, but they basically reprinted the entire miniseries. I picked up a copy of Blip number 1 a while back, read through it. Other than a Bruce Boxleitner interview and Nicholas Hammond, who was the TV show Spider-Man, the 80s TV show. And I'm getting kind of down there. You know, so odds on a bunch of naughty bits, some more G.I. Joes, some more I Hate Fairyland, Juggernaut Volume 3, number 1, Hidden Gem variant cover. A lot of these things I just make deals on. Lassie Volume 6 Golden Key, Lassie 67 Gold Key from 1965 photo cover TV tie-in. I had an Action Comics 1000. It's the Kurt Swan sketch variant cover that was signed by Dan Jurgens. And at the last MCBF show, I actually talked with Dan about this. I said, how does this work? I said, do they just mail these to you and you sit down and sign them away? And he goes, yeah, usually you make a deal with them and they set the number. And once you negotiate the contract, you spend an evening someday filling these things out. Because I remember telling him, I said, I had one that I had sold and it said you had done like the variant in question was Kurt Swan drawing of Superman the way he would look in 1938. So they published 1,938 copies, and that's how many Dan signed. And then of the one I had was like issue number 12 that he signed. So can you imagine doing that someday? It's like, okay, here you go. What are you going to do today? Well, I'm going to sign all these comics. And just sit there, put on some music, or watch some TV, sign your name, number, date, everything, and send them all back. So there's tons more that I sold, and I'm always putting stuff up. Sometimes there are things that I sold, like History of the DC Universe 1 and 2. I had the original Prez, Marv Wolfman comic issues. Well, I've got the hardcover. I don't need both, so I sold it. I've got a couple copies of Uncanny X-Men and New Teen Titans, the crossover that I rave about every so often, just because I tend to buy it whenever I see it because I don't remember if I have it or not. Sometimes they're books I never read, like 5 Years, Fire in the Sky Book 1, because I picked it up in a different format. And, I've got, sometimes they're just things that I have, but I just, it's like I had a 0 Hour #1 signed remark by Marty Nodell, the creator of the Golden Age Green Lantern. He's passed away, so these are increasingly rare, but I also have it in my little sketchbook, which means more to me because I remember meeting him that way. And a lot of these things, when people come, if you come talk to me and you want to cut a deal, I'm always willing to do that. Sometimes people just put them on the watch list, and in the case of like the Dan Jurgens thing, I'll just send them hey, how about if I take $4 off? You sell it? And they go, sure. So you know what to do. I'm always putting stuff online. So what do you think I've been doing these past 4 weeks? You know where to go. You know what to do. Crazy, Krayz. Let me know you've listened to this here show, and I'll probably either add something fun to the mix, or I might give you a better discount. How dare you ask for $20 off? I will accept nothing more than $30 off because you're a valued listener. Hey, I'm not called crazy for nothing. Come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show.
Oh, more stuff about WWE gossip?
No, not where I read Bo Smith, the comic's last real man, talking about why you need to have a pocket knife.
Or how often he beats up Bill Tucci.
But if you're a man, you need a pocket knife. If you're a woman, you need a pocket knife. Got to have a pocket knife.
Yeah, just keep them away from TSA.
No, it's freaking and geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
Can I get some mock sympathy, Cory?
Sure.
I got to go back to work in 2 days.
Aw.
Thank you. I need that. Believe me, I got the same look from Chris. And from Chris, I can say, hey, you volunteered to go back to work after you retired. Me, I still got 4.5 years to go. So I had to reset the clock for healthcare. So I'm a little verklempt about that. But, whatever. I knew it was coming. And like I said, with that comes that I'm working weekends. And the other one is, the sales I can't go to. I already mentioned the TC warehouse sale that I wasn't able to go to. I still may make this one. Heroic Goods and Games over on Minnehaha in Minneapolis. They're having their almost 5 years old clearance event sale day. And it hit today, but it's going tomorrow. I'm still off tomorrow, so I'll probably head over. By the time you listen to this, it'll be over with, so don't even think about it. Matter of fact, maybe next week I'll talk about things that I picked up. Yeah, I've got the major urges to run out and do some geeking. I just, been kind of saving my cash. Oh, well. One more time, Cory. I got to go back to work.
Aw.
Thank you. I deserve that. Cory, what you freaking on?
I have a few things. I have a list.
He's got a list. He's checking it twice.
So, Dan Slott announced that now that he is wrapped up the Reckoning War, he will be leaving the Fantastic Four.
Oh.
And if you look, his last issue has already been solicited. It's coming out in August. Next month in July will be the wrap-up of the Reckoning War, and then the issue after that will be his wrap-up. And after that, we have a couple of fill-ins as they're part of the Avengers, X-Men, Eternals thing, and they have not announced who the new writer will be, but Dan Slott said we will be very, very happy when we find out who it is.
That would be nice to know.
So, Alex Ross? Alex Ross? Alex Ross. I'm putting my money on Alex Ross. But this is a freaking because I love Dan Slott's Fantastic Four. He did a lot of things that needed to be done, not just story-wise, but also to kind of move the characters forward a bit so that the Fantastic Four feels more relevant and cutting edge. One of the things about the Fantastic Four that made it a big deal in the 60s was that it never stood still. Jack Kirby did not allow the book to stand still until he had decided that, fuck Martin Goodman, I'm not giving him any more shit. Then he just, whatever he was watching on TV turned into a Fantastic Four story. Oh, he's watching The Untouchables. We're going to send the Thing to a planet of gangsters. But I thought Dan Slott did an excellent job on the Fantastic Four, and I'm very spoiled because he was on Spider-Man for a decade, and we're not even getting 50 issues of the Fantastic Four. Now, he also did not say what his next book is, but remember when it came out that Alex Ross had put in a pitch for the Fantastic Four, and they said, sorry, Marvel's #1 writer has asked for the Fantastic Four. You know that whatever Dan Slott asked for, they're going to give him. He has kind of stepped into that Brian Michael Bendis role, except he's not as prolific. I am reading Kazar, Joe.
Really?
Yep, starting with the Amazing Adventures, and now I've made it past where Dr. Doom was half of the book. And one of the things I want to say is, oh my God, are these stories repetitive? I also read all the Savage Tale stuff because one of the reasons that Kazar got his own comic was because they used him in Savage Tales, and Savage Tales sold okay. So it's, wow, people must like Kazar. And when you look at it, Kazar had his own book from like 1970 to 1975, which that's not bad at all. But boy, it has one story so far. Somebody in the Savage Land gets godlike powers, thinks they're God, and Kazar has to stop them from destroying the Savage Land. I've read 3 of that story now. And, it's multi-part and everything, but it's like, I hate these comics, movies, TV, cartoons, where they have just one villain, and it's okay, the hero's fighting the same villain again. I was too old for He-Man when it came out, but one of the things that I knew I would have hated, who's his villains? Skeletor and a bunch of Skeletor's minions. Who's his other villain? Well, there isn't one. What do you mean? No, there's the same villain all the time. So he doesn't ever beat him. Oh no, he beats him every episode. But he doesn't capture him. It's just, oh, I stopped your plot and you'll be back tomorrow. Pretty much, yeah. Or, the action adventure cartoons when you were a kid. Usually it was the same villain over and over and over and over and over. And that just, if not for the art, I would have dropped Kazar. Because, boy, they've got Barry Windsor Smith, and they've got Wally Wood doing stuff, and I'm really liking the art. But, man, it's the same story over and over and over again. And then the last thing I am freaking on, we are getting hit with a plethora, I like that word, of wrestling injuries. So, CM Punk is out for at least 3 to 4 months. Daniel Bryan's been out for a month or so with a concussion. And with him and concussions, they have to be very, very careful. Let's see. Miro just came back from an injury. Jeff Hardy is out. Oh, wait, no, that's because he got busted for driving drunk. Randy Orton's out. On and on and on. Most of your huge stars are out with injuries right now. So partly we're going to see if the people in the upper mid card can carry things, but it's also, wow, maybe everybody needs to kind of dial back the intensity of their matches so that it's not, oh, look, our top 5 guys are all out with injuries. What are we going to do for the next pay-per-view? I don't know. Joe, what are you geeking on?
Oh, did JoJo wet his pants when he saw that scene? For those of you that way ahead of me on Star Trek, I'm just finishing up Star Trek Season 3 Discovery. So bear with me. Oh my God, it was such a reveal. I think I recorded that scene and I sent it to Cory like, oh, yep. I gotta change, but that was amazing.
I am so proud that I didn't spoil it for you.
I am.
I know how much you like the Guardian of Forever.
Oh, I just went and right away after I was done going, I rewatched it over and over and over. Oh, that was, and I'm not a guy, and this is kind of what annoys me when I go on the fandom, but man, there's a lot of, I hate Discovery. Then why the F are you watching it? It's the Howard Stern principle where they discovered that people who like Howard Stern, and we're talking classic Howard Stern, not the interview god he's turned into. They listen to him for 2 hours. People who dislike him listen to him for 3. It's like, oh, people. Same thing when I had my comic store. It was like, oh, I don't like this book. Why are you buying it? Put it back. Buy something you like. But I'm loving it. I love the Star Wars. I watched Obi-Wan today. I am just geeking on it. And, of course, I always talk to my buddy Turbo on Thursday. And, again, these two are almost freaking, but he didn't watch it. So I'm like, dude, you do not fail me again. Anyways, matter of fact, as soon as we're done, I've got new episodes of Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, and Orville to watch because we actually had a problem because we had a tree in the backyard that had over the winter overgrown in such a way that when it blossomed, the leaves blocked my satellite signal. Not that it mattered for streaming, just for any over-air stuff, including like severe weather. I know Cory and I haven't talked about it lately, but we had like one day where it was like 100 degrees heat with humidity, and then rain the following day, and then today it's actually pretty nice. And we got extreme heat coming next week. So again, Minnesota, you just wait, it changes. But anyways, guy came, he solved the problem, so that was good to hear. I did see those pop figures we talked about for Brian in last week's previews episode. Target has a few exclusive ones, and they look really cool. It's not a comic book that's in it, otherwise I would probably be buying them, but it is like a cardboard backing, and it's a solid, nice plastic case, so it's basically designed as a showcase. The ones they had were, I think, an Avenger appearance of Captain Marvel, I can't say, what was it, Monica? I can't remember her last name.
Rambeau.
Thank you. Her appearance, and they also had a Scarlet Witch, which I believe had a issue of the miniseries with it. I'm not a Pops fan, but if you get a character old enough, like the Moon Knight that we talked about in previews, I will probably get it. And I did see they have one DC one, so hopefully they continue that. It'd be so cool to see that with other comic things. So you get me excited, I might start buying these damn things. Let's see. Health-wise, I'm doing fine. I mentioned I have a cough. Went through it. It was like one day a headache, one day a sore throat, one day a draining, and now I just wake up every morning and have like a 2-hour coughing fit. I'm ready to go back to work. Reading-wise, well, I'll save what I read for next week in case we get to previews. But I did go down to the source because they had a signing with Drew Brockington. Drew Brockington does a series of probably younger age kid books called Catstronauts, Kitten Adventures. And he had 2 spin-offs, Waffles and Pancakes, Planetary Yum. I'm not talking that they just did a few of these. I mean, I picked up the 2 hardcovers, Waffles and Pancakes, which were kind of like prequels to the cats as they kind of went to NASA, and this is how the cats became catstronauts. And the actual Catstronauts Kitten Adventures, there are 6 trade paperbacks available in this. And these, again, are the smaller kid-size thing. Just wonderful to read, and I'm a sucker for a creator, so I picked them up and I had him sign them, and you know, I don't know what I'll do with them. Maybe I'll give them away here on their podcast. He did also have a more arts orientation thing called Donuts Go Nuts, and I will read that and report it back to you as soon as I get a chance to. But you know, if you do have a signing coming up, or you want to, hey, take advantage of Cory and I. We love preview books. We love, you know, hearing about a signing. And Cory loves a good interview. So give us a yell. We'll try to get you on. Let me double check, because there's usually something I miss. No, that's pretty much it. Other than having to go back to work. Cory, that's where you give me mock sympathy. No, that's after a dad's joke. Mock sympathy is aww.
Aw.
There we go. Thank you. Cory, what you geeking on?
Let's stick with wrestling, because it's been a lot of wrestling today. Let's see here. What's the date? I got to get the date.
On the 16th.
The 26th. AEW will be presenting Forbidden Door, which is their team up with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I am so hyped about this. And one of the complaints people have is, oh, they're not introducing the New Japan people. The average person doesn't know who they are. I get that. I understand that. I hear what you're saying. I don't care. I know everybody in New Japan. I am so hyped for this. I am so hyped for this. This is like DC versus Marvel. This is Avengers JLA. This is the WWF versus WCW we never got. This is Ric Flair coming into the WWF with the big gold belt. I'm so happy. The doctors will have to work on me for 6 to 10 hours just to get the smile off my face. And 2 of the great big stars are not coming in. And my partner, Anthony Pyrus, was saying, oh, it's such a shame. And why aren't they bringing him in? Because you save, if you're going to do this more than once, you got to save something in reserve. You got to have something in your back pocket. You don't give them everything on the first show. Speaking of shows that don't give you everything on the first show, I am watching Picard. And I am taking my time because it is so good.
Are you on season 1 or 2?
Season 2. Season 1 was okay. Yeah. I had some problems with season 1, but they were more, and you and I have talked about it. They were more, they set stuff up, didn't pay it off. But season 2, I'm on episode 4. Each one ends with a cliffhanger. Each one is kicking my ass. And I sent an email to my ex-wife, who's also a Trek fan, and I said, you've got to watch Picard season 2. It is like a defibrillator hitting your heart for 45 minutes, and all the commercials are for heart medication. I'm so in love with this season. Oh, what's her name? What's the Allison Pill? I can't remember her character's name.
Yeah.
I love her so much in this show. She's so funny and so good and such a counterpoint to everything. And I also like the fact that in the series, everybody's all dressed in black, except she's dressed in pure white. Why? Because she's the character who brings the comedy, brings the lightness. She's the pure character who we need to watch to make sure that she doesn't get corrupted by the surprise character that showed up in episode 1. Loving it. Absolutely loving it. I have read the first 3 issues of World's Finest by Mark Waid. I love Mark Waid in the DC universe. I love that he just very casually knows everything about the DC universe, and rather than throwing a bunch of like encyclopedia stuff at you, no, it's just, oh, well, this would be something that the Doom Patrol would be involved in. So let's bring the Doom Patrol in. Or this character would have something to do. Let's bring him in. I like the fact that while it's Batman, Superman, he's going to play with the whole DC universe and not much care about what's going on in the rest of the DC universe. You can read it completely on its own. It's totally, totally fun. Along with Kazar, I am reading my Conan Omnibuses, and I'm up to around issue 42, 43. So everyone has read the first 24 issues. They've reprinted them over and over and over. They're the ones with Barry Windsor Smith doing the art. They are classics. You watch Barry Windsor Smith go from a Kirby clone to his own thing over that 2-year period, and it's amazing to watch his art get better issue by issue by issue, sometimes page to page. I don't think I've ever seen an artist get that good that fast right in front of us. The only one who comes close is Jose Ladron when he was doing Cable. And Cable was a character I didn't care about, but I saw his cover when he came on. It's like, oh, that's very Kirby-esque. I'm going to pick that up because of the art. And it was a mix of Kirby and Mobius. And by the end of his run, he was this completely amazing artist. But then John Buscema takes over. And, okay, well, you get a fill-in by Neil Adams. Oh, you get a fill-in by Gil Kane, where Gil Kane actually gave a shit. And these are all stories where John Buscema gives a shit. And this is just such good stuff. Roy Thomas is at the top of his game. John Buscema is knocking it out of the park. And you can tell he absolutely loves drawing this stuff. And I'm now up to the part where, and Butch is going to hate me for saying this, Ernie Chan takes over the inking, and Ernie Chan just elevates it up yet another level to where it almost looks like wood etchings. I'm just looking at this going, and this was coming out every month. God, we were spoiled. We were so spoiled. And the last thing I'm geeking on, I hold in my hand June 1962.
Ooh.
Which is the latest in the, we're reprinting everything that was on the stands for a month, which because Marvel had bi-monthly books, it's basically 2 months. This is the first appearance of Spider-Man, first appearance of Thor, one of the early appearances of Ant-Man, the 6th issue of the Fantastic Four, and the 3rd issue of Hulk. Let me double check. Yep, Hulk number 3. Plus Kathy number 18, Life with Millie number 18, Patsy Walker 102, Tales of Suspense 33, Strange Tales 100. What happened in Strange Tales 101, Joe? Does Joe know? Can Joe win a shiny new dime?
I don't think it was Dr. Strange. I thought that was 110.
Yeah, that was 110.
Was it Dr. Droom?
The Human Torch.
Oh, that's right.
See, Kid Colt Outlaw 106, Linda Carter Student Nurse number 7, Millie the Model 110, Love Romances 101, Gunsmoke Western 72, Patsy and Hetty number 84, and Rawhide Kid number 30. You've got art in here by Jack Kirby, Al Hartley, Steve Ditko, Don Heck. Now, here's something I bet Joe does not know. Who was the writer on the first appearance of Thor?
Larry Hama.
Nope, Larry Hama. Larry Hama was a child.
Well, it was a thought. Well, it wasn't Jim Shooter. What was it? What was Lieber? Larry Lieber.
Larry Lieber was the writer on the first appearance of Thor. And they kept the error on the last page.
Which was? On
the last page, they have the thing for editor's note. Thor, the Mighty, the greatest new superhero of all time, will appear regularly in Journey into Mystery. Except Thor is spelled Thorr.
Oh, nobody was sorry for that one.
I love this book. I'm just looking through it, and the westerns have this wonderful craggy appearance, and it's really clear that it's okay. Yeah, we're just filling pages. One thing I really like: Kid Colt Outlaw. Kid Colt versus the Circus of Crime. Now, in Hulk #3, who did the Hulk fight? Do you remember?
I don't. It's been way too long since I've read those.
The Circus of Crime!
Oh, good grief.
Stan sure liked those circuses. And I want to double check. I think both of them were drawn by Jack Kirby. I'm going to double check, but I think they were, because Kirby was still doing the westerns. Yeah, no, it was drawn by Jack Keller.
Oh.
So Jack Keller drew it for Kid Colt Outlaw. Jack Kirby drew it for the Hulk. Circus of Crime getting a double workout back in June. Believe it or not, kids, we didn't hit anything I have on my list of stuff to talk about.
Nope.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
Today, a friend told me I make people uncomfortable by invading their personal space. I think it was a hurtful thing to say. It completely ruined our path. And I gotta go to work in 2 days.
I gotta answer the door.
Oh, well, while he's doing that, ladies and gentlemen, hit my music.